Hello, now we are going to look at construction 3. In construction 3 we are going to construct a straight line that is perpendicular to an original line that we're given. Here I've called it L1, and the line we construct is also going to go through a point P, and P is not going to be on the original line L1. Now let's have a look at what that would look like in more formal language. The line L2 is going to be perpendicular, or upside down t square means perpendicular, to L1, the original line. P, the point we have, is an element of L2, so P is going to be in the set, or in the group L2, so it's going to be a point on the line L2. And P is not an element of the line L1, and we can actually see that in our diagram. The point P is up here, and it's not a member of the set of points that all sits in a nice straight line on L1. So again, our upside down t-square symbol means perpendicular, or at 90 degrees to, and we know that perpendicular lines, if we think about perpendicular, we think about slopes, and the slopes of our perpendicular lines, if we multiply them together, we get the number -1, or put another way, one slope is the negative reciprocal of the other. So to give just a feel for where this is going, we know that we want to go through the point P and be at 90 degrees to L1, so very approximately that is going to be the line L2. That's what we're aiming to end up with, that we have a line that's perpendicular to L1 going through the point P. So how would we construct that? Well, what we're going to do is try and take the tools that we already know. So where have we come across the idea of perpendicular already? Well, we know about the perpendicular bisector between two points. So we can build off of that idea in order to get the perpendicular bisector or a perpendicular line that goes through the point P, perpendicular to L1. We can also use a set square, but we're going to look at our more formal construction first. So taking our compass, how are we going to build off of what we already know for our construction of our perpendicular bisector? Well, what we're going to do is mark 2 points on our line L1 that are equidistant, equal distances away from the point P, and that's going to allow us to then construct a perpendicular bisector between those 2 points. So we open up our compass, point at point P, and we're going to draw an arc. We're going to make sure those arcs are left very visible on our constructions at the end, so we don't want to be small about them. We want big arcs to see that's where we're crossing our original line L1. So now, if I get the perpendicular bisector of these points here, where our arcs cross the original line, then we are going to end up with that perpendicular bisector going through P. So that line, that perpendicular bisector of these, between these 2 points on L1, is going to give us the line L2, because it'll be perpendicular to L1 and it'll have to go through the point P. So now we're going to get the perpendicular bisector of those 2 points. We bring our compass to our first crossing point, and we open up our compass to more than halfway across, and we are going to bring our compass down, and we're going to draw an arc. We can go all the way, or we could actually just go on the lower part here, because we already know it has to go through P, but there's no harm in doing the arc top and bottom and seeing that it works. So keeping the compass exactly the same size, we are going to draw another arc up here. And now when we take a ruler, and draw a line between those where those 2 arcs cross, we must end up with the perpendicular bisector of those 2 points where we crossed, and that goes through P. So we've met our criteria. We are at 90 degrees to our original line, to L1, and we are going through the point P. Now this is by far the most important way to do this construction. It builds off of what we know, and it will build into things we need to do later. However, we can be asked to do a simplified version of this construction, so we're going to look at that simplified version now. The simplified version of the construction is just to use a set square. So we know that the angle in here is supposed to be 90 degrees. It's one of our two right angle triangles in our construction set. So what we do is bring that down to our line, make sure that it's properly aligned down on our original line, and sit it against the line and sit it against the point P, and then just draw a line straight through. This method is only to be used if we're specifically asked to use a set square in our construction. Otherwise, we would use the more formal method where we would be constructing the perpendicular bisectors from our two arcs off of P. And that is what we need for now.